Hi everyone, and welcome to the next part of my build of AFV Club's Scorpion in 1/35th scale, celebrating the Falklands War 40th anniversary. As you can see from this short video, I've completed the tracks and the running gear and started to do some of the weathering on the upper hull as well. So if you'd like to know how I got to this stage, then grab yourself a brew and let's do some modelling. So first of all, the whole of the model was given a coat of a grey primer. I wanted to go for the lighter shade here because of the amount of dark weathering that was going to be applied to the model. And then I gave it a coat of NATO green from Vallejo. And I did some contrasting work by lightening up the green and applying that initially onto the model, and then adding a slightly darker layer to give the different contrasts in colours from the lower and on the upper hull. And as you can see from the grills, there's quite a nice contrast there of different colours. So really pleased how that's all come out. And then similarly, the same principles were applied on the turret as well. There's a lot of detail here, so just have to be careful of getting it all in the recesses and in the correct areas on the turret, and try not to flood the surface area. So basically do 2 or 3 thin coats and build it up gently. But again, very pleased with how that turned out. And not forgetting the accessories, they were done in different shades of green, some US green, some olive green, just to add a little bit of contrast to the model. And they will be ideal for weathering later on in the video. Now, as you can see, all the airbrushing work's now been done. Added some darker layers on the bottom to start the dirt process, and some speckling as well. US light olive green was put on the tarpaulin, and obviously using Vallejo's NATO black, we did the camouflage work as well. Now, with the amount of detail that is on top of the turret, it's important that you use a whole variety of shades and different coloured greens to give an amount of interest to the viewer. So take your time when doing your acrylic work. Do a lot of detail painting. Do all your belts and your buckles, as well as rust work on the exhaust, handles for the tools, and really go to town and add as much colour onto your build as possible. As far as the markings go, had fun and games trying to do the red orange squares on each side of the turret. This was all done using brush and sponge, as well as all the Tamiya tape. Bit of touching up had to be done, but I was happy with the final result. And also the white markings on the back as well. That was actually done with the airbrush, and that came out really well. I was very pleased with that. As far as the tow ropes go, first of all, I added a light coat of brown, and as you can see on the left, I added a darker shade on top of that. And those ropes will be improved and enhanced with the oil work later on in the build. So all together now, with the acrylic work done, some of the speckling was also added to start adding the layering of all of the mud and effects that were going to be applied. Going around, you can see the detail of painting again with the markings and the tarpaulin. As far as the rust work goes on the exhaust, I didn't go overboard here because obviously it's a fairly newish vehicle, so just some generalised rust there. Detail painting of light wood on the handles, which will again be enhanced. Extra detailing on the strap work as well. And we've also got the tow ropes as explained. I did a little cover there made from foil. Again, different greens. Bit of silver work there for the Jubilee clip. And on this side we have the black pickaxe handle and the crowbar there as well, using Vallejo steel colours. And the little extinguisher in the corner there's got a little decal. I found some old fire extinguisher decals in the spares drawer, so I've managed to use those on this build. As for the turret, well, there was a lot more detail painting required with the canvas cover on the turret there. Again, there was the orange red square markings on both sides. We have some camouflage pattern work there as well. I'm working our way around. We have the decal markings on the back. Not strictly the correct font, but better than not having it on there at all. And we have the brown kit bag that will be glossed over later to give that shiny plastic look. And again, different coloured greens here for the kit bags, and the track being all in black. And again, another decal on the fire extinguisher. So really pleased with how that's come out. Really do like this turret. There's a lot happening on it. Similarly, don't forget the stowage. Do as much detail painting work as you can here. So we have different colours for the belts around the bedrolls. As far as the decals go, I just got some old decals and put them on there just so that you can see there's sort of bit of yellow on there. Again, they'll all be covered up in the weathering process, so they won't really be seen as far as being able to work out what it says, but at least that detail will be on there. Decided to paint some of the wheels black to match in with the camouflage work. And again, the wheels are all done using dark rubber. And there we have the fuel can that will be going on one side of the rear stowage bin, and the fire extinguisher on the other side. And that's antique gold on the top there. And again, there's a little decal there as well. And we have the little spare cog from the front sprockets, and that was done using Vallejo metallics. As far as the cable reel goes, just used 2 or 3 different shades of green, and obviously the wire inside done in black as well. So with all the attention to detailing all complete with the acrylics, it was time to give it a good coat of matte varnish. And once the matte varnish was all dry, I gave it another coat. So altogether there was 2 coats of thin matte varnish all over the model, ready for all of the pigment work and for the oil work. So with all the stills, you can see more of the detailing painting that I managed to achieve. And on all the accessories as well. Now my attention was drawn to doing the running gear. For those of you who follow my builds, you'll know that I have different pots for light, medium and dark pigments. But for this particular one, because the Falklands conflict on the Falklands Islands is actually peat, which is a very dark black soil, I actually made up a specific mixture for this particular build. So it's a matter of getting the variety of dark earth colours. So this one is just dark earth for MIG. There's an EU dark earth, there's a Russian earth, and also a Vallejo earth as well. They're different consistencies as well. Some are smooth, some are coarse, and it just really adds a lot of contrast to your pigments, rather than actually having to just use the one colour and shade. And then once the dark colours were put together, it was a matter of adding in the black pigment. Now I hate black pigment, it gets everywhere, so be really careful, because you can quite easily just get a little speck of it on your model, and it doesn't look very good at all. So mix the black in with the dark earth tones until you're happy with the consistency. I was aiming for very much a black brown look, so after putting a small amount in, I mixed it all in and then just kept adding black until I got the result that I was happy with. And there we have it. Very pleased with that particular shade. So the first thing to do is to add it onto the underneath of the model. Whenever you're doing pigment work, make sure that whatever surface you're applying it to is on the horizontal. And we'll be putting down several layers. So this is the first layer, which will be a light layer. And then once that's been applied, just get some dirty thinner and just speckle that all over the pigments. And then that just sort of gives you a bit of a gritty look to the actual finish of the pigments. And then once that's done, get your hairdryer on low heat and gently dry that out. And then once that's done, we can then go in and add on a second layer, this time a little bit thicker around the edges. Try and add a little bit more patination in there, as you can see here. And the same principle, lay down the thinner, use the hairdryer to dry it all out. And as you can see, some of it's started to fall down on the underside as well, which is fine. That just adds on to the layering process of building up the effect. So there's the third layer. And finally the fourth layer, where I did a little bit of brushwork to sort of give an idea of some streaking as well. And now what we need to do is to do the other horizontal planes. So again, adding down some pigment, and then gently using the pipette, as you've probably seen on my other videos, with the pigment fixer to create this final look. I did add a little bit of lighter colour in there as well, just to break it all up, but I was really pleased with how all that turned out. And then that would be a good basis now for me to add some oils and just to lighten it up here and there, and just add some sort of grease spots as well. So as far as the oils go, we need to put down a palette. So using the different Winsor Newtons and also the Abteilungs, we start with the darker earth tones and colours. And then obviously, because this is a green vehicle, we're going to be using a variety of green shades as well. So here with the sap green, that goes really well with the NATO green colour, and also in the Abteilung faded green as well. So again, lots of variety of colour and tonal work there. And then we'll go for the lighter colours, which will be your dust work, so your buffs and your dark brown, your light browns. And then finally some mixing colours, also the rust colours there with the burnt sienna, and we have some starship filth and faded white and some ochre. And then what you want to do is just to add that to your cardboard in such a way that you have a sort of circle of colour. So you sort of start with your lights and your darks and the greens as well, and then you'll be able to use the centre of the palette to blend it all in. So once you've added a little dollop of oil onto your palette, what you need to do is just to leave it. I leave it overnight, and that allows all the linseed oil to drain out, as you can see. And then the oil paints are now ready to be used. Also use thinners, have a clean one and a dirty one, also with the green tissues as well. And then as far as the brushes go, I use a couple of round number 2s, one for the dark, one for the light colours. And then we have a very small brush for some detail painting, and then we have some old blenders to blend in the oils. So we're going to concentrate on the wheels, give you some ideas on how I apply the oils to it. So first of all, we just use a little bit of thinner just to clean all the surface off, so that you've got a clean working area. And then what we'll do is just first of all, we're just going to add a little bit of faded green there, just because it's a darker green, and that can go into the recesses to give that sort of contrast. And then all you need to do is get yourself your blending brush and just blend that out to give the effect. And then once that's done, we want to add a little bit more contrast, so we're going to go for the sap green. Clean off your brush, just add a small amount, take off the excess, and then this time we're actually going to go around the rim of the wheel, just a couple of little dabs here and there. And then with your blending brush, clean off the excess, make sure it's clean. And again, with that stippling motion, we'll just blend that all in to create more contrast on the wheel. And there we have it. If we compare that with the one before, it's had the orange, you can see there's a distinct difference already. And it's just a matter of building up all those contrastive layers using the different green shades, and then you can get a lovely variety of shading on your wheels. So once the green work's done, what we now need to do is to start laying down the dust colours. So using the yellow cream there, what we're going to do is just put a couple of little dabs down, and again, similarly to when we did the green colour, use the stippling effect and just blend that all in. Now it's up to you how many layers and how much dust you want to apply, but obviously the more layers that you add, the more realistic the final look is going to be. So with the first layer of dust applied, what we now need to do is just to add a little bit of speckling. So I use my craft knife and just put a little bit of thin oil on there, and just using an old brush, just create the splatter marks on the wheel. And again, don't forget, in between all these different layers, what you're doing is using the hairdryer to dry each layer out, to avoid you sort of mixing any of the colours as you're going along. Now that one didn't come out particularly well, but don't worry, just get your blending brush, and if there's any dollops that you think are too big or you don't like, then you can just quickly take them out, blend it in. And also don't forget to try and keep the tyres as clean as possible at this particular stage. We'll look at how we do those later on. Now that's the one that I did on camera. This is the one that I didn't do on camera, and as you can see, they're a lot better. So if you're not too au fait with this process, as you can see, these are the back wheels. So practice if you want on those, because not so much of it's going to be seen. And also don't forget, as you're doing them, do the backs as well, and start building up the layering process there. So with the speckling done, what we do now is to take another dust colour, and what we're going to do is add some more detail with some sort of radial splash marks. This time I'm using the black wheel, just because it shows you a bit better definition of how this works. And again, don't forget to do the inside rim where all the dust and dirt and mud will collect on the wheels. And again, just blend that all in. Keep the tyres clean, and there we go. So that's another layer of dust work being done. And then what we want to finally do is just add a darker dust wash, just to make some of those details stand out. And then again, once that's all been done, get the hairdryer on, dry it all out, and then repeat the process using some of the dark colours. And then keep layering as much as you want until you get the final look that you're happy with. And there we have it. So with the darks and the light colours, all the detail stands out, and you have some lovely tonal work. Don't forget to do the insides of the sprockets as well. And there's one of the black wheels, come out particularly well. And also don't forget to do the detailing on the tyres. I particularly just add a bit of a wash of one of the dust colours on the outside of the tyre, and then using a bit of sponge, just very gently blend that in. Now during that blending process you will get some on the inner rim as well, so just get yourself your blending brush and just drag that out, and that has a very nice effect, and that gives you all of the dust effects on the outside of the tyre as well. So there we have, that's the front of the tyre and the side, and don't forget to do the backs. And as you can see there's a little rim there, and that needs to be silvered because that will be worn. And there we have the 4 examples of the drive wheels done now. What I did then was to add a coat of dust to the whole of the lower hull, just using a variety of lighter colours, and this will then be my basis for doing weathering. There you can see the contrast between the areas that have been done and haven't yet been done, but I'll cover that off in the next video. But it gives you an idea of the stage that I'm at this particular moment with the weathering of the lower hull. Now I'm moving on to the tracks in the same way. I gave those a grey primer coat and then covered those in just black Vallejo for the base coat. And then what I did is using Vallejo's metal colours, I just did a small airbrush along the edge, and then in between the pads I used a brush just to give that sharp contrast between where the wheel wear is and where the actual pads are as well. Once that was done, I mixed up a bit of black and dark rubber, and I use that colour to accentuate the tyre markings on the inside of the tracks, so there's a distinct mark now going all the way along. And then using that black pigment I added that all the way along the edge of the track as well. And then finally just silvered up the top of the teeth for the wear and tear as it goes along. And then on the pads using some oils. Yes, I've used oil, so that means I've added on a layer of varnish. So once the matte varnish had dried, the oils were put on and that was all blended in nicely. Now to fit the tracks, first of all I will glue on the drive wheels and the rear idler, and I'll leave that for a day so that they are solid. Make sure that you put weights on top of the tanks so that they are flat. You don't want any misalignment with the wheels. Now these tracks were extremely fragile, so where it was going to be bending around the front and the rear wheels, I put some Tamiya tape on there, and then starting on the back wheel, that was glued in securely, and as you can see some of the track was starting to fall apart already, but it wasn't a major issue. And then once that was stuck back together, it was wrapped around the front sprocket. Now for whatever reason, whenever I do a tank build, I have one link extra compared to the other side. So this particular model, one side had 70 links and this side had 71 links. I don't know why it is, but it happens on every build that I do. So it was a matter of just taking that one link out and then gluing that together. And then what I did, I glued every single individual link, so it's now absolutely rigid and can't move at all. So as far as track goes, it wasn't too bad. Had a few fiddly moments, but we got there in the end. Very pleased with the final look, and there's a bit of spring in the tracks as well, which is quite handy to have, because I may adjust the look. But at the moment, I'm pretty pleased with how it's all looking. These tracks are beautifully detailed, very pleased with that issue. The only real problem is they are very fragile, but certainly better than the rubber tracks that were supplied with the kit. So with the tracks all done, as you can see, the silver teeth were done on the front sprockets, and also the wear and tear was improved for the wheels, and you can just see the silver rims inside. So now what that I'll be doing is blending the bottom hull into the top of the turret as well, and that will be what we'll cover off in the next video, where we'll do the final weathering of the whole model and also that final reveal. So all that leaves me to do now is to say thank you ever so much for your continued support. Thank you very much to all of my subscribers. I really appreciate all of your positivity and your comments. And just leaves me to say happy modelling.